Welcome to SAS Daily Podcast. Without you guys, this wouldn't be possible, and thank you guys for subscribing. We're blessed enough to have an interview with Bigfoot researcher, Dogman researcher Tom Danley. How are you doing tonight, man?
Good, good. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. And I know you have a very interesting story to tell us about a Bigfoot encounter.
I do. Um, Actually, you guys are the first ones to hear this because it happened back in 82, 83. Uh, we were in Emporium, Pennsylvania, which is a pretty secluded area, like in the Allegheny National Forest, my grandfather and I. And we were fishing for some native brook trout. Now, mind you, I don't even know what a Bigfoot was at that time. I was like 12 or 13. I headed upstream, he headed downstream. And everything was cool for about an hour. And then I got this feeling, the one where your hair stands up on the back of your neck and you're like, man, something's watching me. And then I heard some sticks start popping. Well, I'm scanning around, and I thought it was a squirrel on a tree. And I'm looking, and all of a sudden that squirrel turned into five fingers. Well, the next thing that happened was a head come around the tree. Well, I don't have to tell you, man, it was elbows and tennis shoes, man. I beat feet out of there. I was heading back for the truck. And it sounded like it was on me, like right behind me. And a couple times I tripped and fell, and I never bothered to even look back. I just boogied. Well, I could see the truck. And as I turned around and looked behind me, there were two of them. So I get in the truck. First thing I did was grab the 44 from under the seat, and I started hitting the horn because the old man's downstream from me. I don't even know where he's at. About 5 minutes later, here he comes, and he's hauling ass up the creek. And I'm like, he knows, he's seen it. Uh, he gets in the truck and he's like, a black bear's on me, a black bear's on me. And I was like, yeah, black bear, huh? It wasn't 30 seconds later. There were at least four, maybe five. And you could see them. They stayed out about 75 yards, man, but they weren't trying to hide. They were out from behind the trees. They were making that growl. They were making that. It wasn't even like a whoop. It was more like a scream, you know, coming from deep down. So we headed out of there. We had to go up a long logging road, maybe 20 minutes to get out of there. We get to the top, and he swore me to secrecy, to never, ever, ever speak of this because people would think we were crazy, you know. Now, he passed away a few years ago, and it kind of went in the back of my mind. And I was setting up a ground blind on my farm, and while I was hammering in some nails, something hammered back. And I was like, wow, whatever. I just kept going back. Uh, about 20 minutes later, I started getting this growl from about 75 feet away in this monofore rose thicket. And he was going, "Ruh, ruh." And I'm trying to ignore him. But the more I'm ignoring him, the more aggressive he's getting. Sort of like a dog, right before he bites you in the ass. You know how he gets that sound to his voice?
Yeah.
Well, that was all I needed. And I run out of there. Well, as soon as I got to the end of the clearing, I turned around and looked. And this thing had to be 9.5 feet, 8.5 feet, 9.5, somewhere around there. Jet black, holding on to two trees, swaying side to side, side to side. Well, at the same time, something was off to my left, about 50 feet away. There must have been a group of them, and she paralleled me coming out. And I say she because 2 weeks later in rifle season, I seen her come out across the gas line, stopped and looked at me, and I could see she had boobs, a real sparse hair on her chest, and they moved in different directions as she was moving. So that told me it wasn't some fool in a suit, because they were moving independently, you know. Um, Needless to say, I haven't hunted the farm for a while. I still got to take care of the animals and everything. And I think I messaged you the other night. I had rocks and sticks and logs being thrown at the tractor while I was trying to feed way in the back. So I think I got a pretty active population going on here. You know, um, I try to stay out of the one area. It's like a bunch of Spanish olives. There's a lake down there. It's real thick. There's a couple old coal mines down in there. And I just figured that's their area. I leave them alone. You know, I've got some trail cameras set up. I do a little bit of audio recording in there, but I don't dare press in there because I just think that some things are better left alone. You know, a little too close for comfort in there. You know, it's one of them places where you can't see above your head and you're just in there. You know, like mountain laurel when you're hunting black bears. It's thick and you're moving everything out of your way, and the next thing you know, boom, you're face to face with them. You know, so that encounter there kind of got me started, and that's what I try to do a few times a week is get out and check on reports and sightings, and um, we've had some pretty interesting stuff go down here, you know, and that's what led me into the dog man thing. I was fishing one night, and they had me surrounded, and I say surrounded because there was a huge cliff in front of me and one behind me, and I could just see the silhouettes passing between the trees. One time they would run on all fours, but then I would see them again on two, and they were woofing back and forth to each other. And I was like, it's time to get out of here. No pistol, no rifle, no shotgun, nothing. We were just fishing, you know. And so we're actively in this area right now, and no less than 3 times they've had me surrounded. And I'm like, man, I got to rethink my strategy for getting into these places because they've got me pegged, you know. I don't want to be dog food, you know.
Yeah,
But
man.
yeah, so that's what we got going on down here, you know, up here, I should say.
Yeah, man. Everybody that I talk to that has had an encounter with Bigfoot, they always say, if you think there's one, there ain't. There's more than one watching you. There's
Yeah,
usually 2 or 3. They move like a pack.
yeah, yes, yes. And you know, I think like in the springtime, we would lose a bunch of calves. And it was weird because, you know, a stillborn calf, you'll find her laying in the field. But these calves are completely gone. And I don't know a coyote around big enough to hoist this thing over 6 strands of barbed wire. And it's like, where are these things going? You know, so I did investigate it one time, and I got down in this bottom of this holler, and here's all these bones. They were down on like a glacial rock where it had slid down right up underneath of this glacial rock, and there was bones everywhere. And again, I was like, "Oh, I'm out of here. This is a feeding site. I don't want to add my carcass to the pile." You know,
Now, are
I
you
don't know that
thinking?
they're necessarily aggressive all the time. You know,
Are you thinking that was a dog man or a Bigfoot that took your cattle?
I'm thinking it was a Bigfoot because, like I was telling you, I think I have a family group living on the property. And it's weird because I never noticed it before, all those years of cutting hay and everything. And now that I'm starting to research them a little bit and understand what they do, you know, you're riding in a tractor and a stick falls on the tree. You're like, oh, it was a dead fall. It fell over, you know. Now I rethink all of that, you know, because I've had the rocks thrown at me and I've had the sticks thrown at me, you know. So it's really weird. Um, it has opened my eyes to so much, you know. Actually getting to see them, it's like they walk out of the book that you read when you were a kid of the Loch Ness monster. What was his name? Leonard Nimoy, In Search of. They basically walked out of the TV into my life, and it's like, wow, what do I do with this information? And it's really hard to process. You know, it takes a long time to come to grips with that.
Absolutely, man. That would definitely. I've not had an experience with Bigfoot. I've never seen one, but me having experiences with UFOs and stuff, definitely I can understand what you're saying. Like that's not supposed to be up there. That's not supposed to happen.
Right, right. And then you go through that stage where you're like, wow, now what? You know, for me, it turned into an addiction pretty much. Um, I'm driven now to prove it. And I've got a couple pretty good hypotheses on these things because We've had 4 encounters up here right outside the city of Pittsburgh on Mount Washington. Early winter into the beginning of midwinter every year, 5 or 6 sightings right outside the city of a Bigfoot along the major highways. And I'm thinking maybe that's a migration route where they're migrating out of the northern counties or even the northern states like New York or Minnesota. They're coming down into the south to escape some of that more harsher weather. And I found a few nests, man. And we've got a major waterway here called Chartiers Creek. It flows into the Ohio River. And I think that they are using that waterway to come up into our area. And like I said, I've found some nests up this way along creeks. And I found one that I think is a birthing nest. And it's really weird because it's a strip mine pine tree. You know what I'm talking about? The long needled pine trees. It kind of droops down, but they've made 3 chambers in there, and I call it the birthing nest because it would seem logical that they would want to give birth in there because it's warm, it's padded,
Yeah.
It's funny, man. It's just more information piles up every day. What's that?
I said, do you believe they have their like babies there in the winter?
I don't know. I honestly, I believe that they're kind of like humans, where I don't want to say they don't have a mating season, but I think that they're compulsive. I think they mate when the urge hits them, sort of like us guys, when the urge hits you, it hits you. And I imagine Bigfoot, as intelligent as they are, have to pretty much be the same way,
And that makes
they get some fermented apples off the tree, and
that makes you kind of think, man, maybe Bigfoot's half human.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, I honestly believe they're a lot smarter than we are. A lot smarter than we are. I mean, you see them shirts, the hide and seek champ. Well, they truly are, man. And to be able to be that stealthy, they have to be smart, I mean, I've heard them walking in front of me. Now, granted, it was dark, but I've heard them walking in front of me like 50, 60 feet away. And when that light goes on, you don't see them. I've used the red light. I've used the IR light. You just don't see them. And I think that I don't think they're shapeshifters or they have the ability to disappear. I think it's like if you've ever deer hunted and you've had a deer coming in and then it turns a certain way and faces you, it disappears. You can't see it. And I think they have the ability to maneuver their bodies so that you can't see them.
Yeah, man, I think they're way smarter than us, and they're definitely the ultimate camouflager.
Sure.
Yep.
The Native Americans said that they could disappear right in front of you, and I think that's what it is. Like you said, they're the best camouflagers.
Absolutely, man, they definitely are. I mean, the way that they, I believe they let you see them instead of you seeing them.
Yes. And I think a lot of people who see them, it's just a chance encounter. I don't think they purposely want to be seen. It's just that maybe the wind's right and they can't pick you up, or you walk up on them, because I think they know their territory a lot better than we do. We could walk into an area today, come back tomorrow, and not even realize that somebody was there. I think they know a rock's overturned, a leaf's overturned. I think they're that in tune with nature that it's almost like a sixth sense that they have that you're there.
Absolutely, definitely, man. And do you think that Bigfoot is connected to UFOs and aliens?
That's a pretty good question, man. Uh, I don't want to say no because I don't know. You know, these guys that are like, no, they're definitely not connected. Well, you can't say that because we don't know enough about them. They very well could be, you know. Um, I mean, they definitely have some of the qualities that would make you think that they are, you know. Um, I don't know if you've ever heard about being zapped, but I was zapped a couple times, and that makes me think that maybe they are, you know, because there's a half hour, 45 minutes that your brain's just scrambled, you know, and it was every time I was close to that birthing nest that I got zapped, you know, so I kind of stay away from that. But yeah, I guess there's a very good possibility that they are, you know. Um, I don't think we can say as researchers, or well, um, it would be wrong as a researcher to say no, they're not until you can draw definite concrete proof that they're not. You know, I like to leave all my doors open, you know, and if I can't close them, then they stay open, you know. And unfortunately, with Bigfoot, there's a lot of open doors, man. You know, uh, Todd Standing, he likes to think that he knows all there is to know, but I don't think anybody has even scratched the surface of what is going on there. You know,
Definitely. And my buddy, he was abducted by aliens and stuff. He's from the UK, Russ Kellett. He's been on coast to coast. He's been on a bunch of radio stations and everything and TV and all that. And he said that Bigfoot is an alien's bodyguard. He was abducted by aliens. He's been abducted a bunch
really,
of times. Yep.
wow, wow. You know, that would make sense. I mean, what was the guy's name? Travis Walton. You know, he was Fire in the Sky and from Stephen King, the guy that was abducted. Um, you know, that story still hasn't been proven to be a fraud. And as a kid, I seen a couple what I think were UFOs because they kind of looked like upside down ice cream cones with the lights, you know, and they were above a military installation. So, you know, I definitely believe in UFOs. And it would make sense, man. If you want a bodyguard, what's better than a 9 foot, 800 pound hairy beast that would basically rip your arm off and beat you over the head with it? You know, that's the kind of bodyguard I want.
Yeah, definitely very interesting.
Yeah, if he's my bodyguard, I'm gonna go pick fights with all the big dudes.
You're gonna be a UFC champion with a Bigfoot.
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah, man. And also I know you had some dog man stories as well.
Yeah, you know, I didn't buy into that dogman thing too much at first. And I'm kind of down in the almost southern part of Pennsylvania, the southern corner, southeastern corner. And it seems to be a real hot spot there. It's like right by um, Wheeling, West Virginia. And it's a pretty remote area there. And like I was telling you earlier, I've seen them go from 4 feet to 2 feet, and they are just as agile on two as they are on four. But you can tell by their body shape that you're not dealing with a Bigfoot. When we were kids, we used to call it the Werewolf Village. This village has like 4 houses and a church, and they don't go to church until dark. So we were like, you know, kids, we were always like, oh, that's a werewolf church, man. They all turn into werewolves and feed on people. But we had an A-frame cabin there. I was the last guy out of the door, and you had to turn all the lights off, and then you beat feet for the car because it was pitch black. Well, they were beeping the horn and screaming and screaming and screaming. And I'm like, what are they doing? I got to lock the door. Well, as I locked the door and turned around, this thing was standing on the porch with me. And I mean, I'm 6'1", and this thing made me look like a little kid, like a 10-year-old kid. I mean, it just towered above me, but it had that long snout. and it had them big yellow eyes, and the teeth were enormous. I mean, I don't know if they're an offshoot of Bigfoot, you know, but humans come in all shapes and sizes. Do Bigfoot come in all shapes and sizes? And that's what they're calling Dogman and Sheep Squatch and whatever else they're seeing that's humanoid like that, but doesn't fit into the stereotypical Bigfoot shape. You know, whatever they are, they're very aggressive because they seem to be pack hunters, and they sure do like to circle me for some reason. You know,
That's not a good
when I
thing.
go down there now, I carried a Mossberg 3.5 inch mag with a tack light and laser sight. I got the 44 mag on my chest, and I got the 357 on my hip. And I'll be honest with you, dude, I still don't feel safe. I mean, when they start making noise and stuff, it puckers up, and I'm going out of there because I honestly don't trust their aggression. You know, they're a very aggressive animal, and honestly, people who look for them got to be out of their freaking mind, man. Sometimes I wonder if I need to see a psychiatrist because I'm going to look for something that definitely wants to make you a meal. But it's got to be proven. I mean, at least in my eyes, we've got to prove this, you know, because they've got to be protected and we've got to be protected, you know. Um, I have this theory on national parks. I think that Teddy Roosevelt, because, you know, of course, he had a Bigfoot sighting. I think Teddy Roosevelt went to these places and found out that there were cryptids living there. And he reserved these areas for these cryptids. And he said, well, you know, missing 411, 1,600 people a year missing from national parks. Well, that's collateral damage. That's not too many people to lose. If it keeps them appeased and keeps them in this area away from the general public, then we'll deal with those losses, you know. And I think that's why they were set up. Now, people call me crazy for saying that, but it makes perfect sense. You know, hikers go missing all the time. The only thing that bothers me is like the cases where a 5-year-old kid will go missing, and then 2 years later they find his bones on the same trail that 100 searchers went to find him, and his clothes are folded perfect and his shoes look brand new. That makes me think of alien abduction, you know. Um, but it's weird because you can go in so many directions with that, you know. But
I will
that's
tell
that's a
you
theory
this.
I have with the
I will
national
tell you
parks, you know.
this. That this could back up your theory about some of them being abductions and stuff. Like Russ Kellett, who was from the UK and stuff, who's been abducted a bunch of times and has got sick from and has scars from his abductions and everything. He said that some people doesn't make it back.
Wow. Well, I imagine they wouldn't, you know. Um, what's puzzling to me is why a lot of the abductions are people that are sick already. I mean, are they trying to find out what diseases we have here so that eventually, if there's an invasion, they can combat those diseases for themselves? You know, that's such a wild topic too, because the what ifs well outweigh the fact that they would be here for friendly reasons. You know, I can't imagine they're going to come all this way to be friendly. You know, I imagine it will be an all-out firefight, and we're going to lose. I mean, if they can travel across the stars, what's our technology going to do? Nothing. You know. But I'll tell you what, this old redneck boy ain't going down without a fight. I'm gonna fire up the 300 mag and give it my best. You know. What else can you
I
do?
I believe that Dogman was created by the government, and maybe Dogman was made to fight against aliens. That might be a crazy
Maybe,
theory.
maybe not, because I've heard people say that Wendigo and Skinwalker were also created by the government, and they're supposed to be two of the most ferocious creations that they made. My only wonder is Do they track them? Do they know where they're at all the time? Or are they escapees? You know, like I said, there's always a lot of questions with this topic, you know.
Yep. I don't think there's as many dogmen out there as what there is Bigfoots. And I think Bigfoot was just here. Bigfoot was here before we was. I think maybe we may come from Bigfoot, maybe. I think Dogman was made by us.
Yeah. Yeah, because their aggression level is unbelievable. Unbelievable. And you know, Bigfoot occasionally is aggressive, but you don't hear about him being aggressive as much as you used to. And I think that has a lot to do with us evolving as people also. We don't spend the time in the woods that we used to. If you look at aggressive Bigfoot reports, they're from like the 1800s when people still went out in the woods and scavenged. They still hunted to keep their families alive. They pushed into Bigfoot's territory a lot. We don't do that too much anymore. You know, there's places that I trout fish up in Emporium. There probably haven't been people there for 150 years because they're just too hard to get to. The average person is too lazy to walk 6 miles to catch a freaking brook trout, you know, who wants to walk all that way to catch a 7-inch brook trout, you know, but it's nice and peaceful. So that's why I like to do it, you know.
Yeah. Unfortunately, where I live, the only trout we have is trout they put out in our lake. So, yeah.
Oh, okay. And did they stock some pretty nice ones?
They used to, but now they're probably about 7 or 8 inches. You might catch one that might be 14 inches. Rainbow trout is what they are. I
Yeah.
caught one that was 14 inches about two
Oh,
years
okay.
ago, but that's because
Oh,
everybody
okay.
that's because nobody was fishing and they was scared of COVID and stuff, and I was the only person there fishing.
Right. I'll tell you what, Pennsylvania blew up with fishermen at COVID. Blew up. You couldn't find a place to fish. It went crazy here. And it kind of upset me because I like to winter fish, but they cleaned them creeks out. I mean, there's nothing worse than fishing next to a weekend warrior. I ain't fishing 30 years, but I'm going to go out there and act like I'm a pro, you know?
Yeah, definitely, man.
Amazing.
Have you seen Bigfoot like around waters and stuff? There's a lot of people that think Bigfoot follows the waters and stays around the waters. I will say all the Bigfoot sightings in my county is around the lake.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm a firm believer that Bigfoot uses waterways as travel. I've got a map and it's got, like I was telling you, the Ohio River. We've got the Allegheny, the Youghiogheny, the Monongahela. So the Allegheny and Monongahela make the Ohio, right at the point in Pittsburgh. Well, there's so many feeder creeks and streams that go in there. Well, there's one called Chartiers Creek, and it literally runs straight up through my town and beyond into West Virginia. I've got evidence that they